Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into some New Zealand news this time, straight from the NZ Lanka News English Weekly News Update podcast.
Sounds intriguing. What's caught your eye this week?
Well, the theme that really jumps out is safety.
Safety. In what sense?
In all sorts of ways, really, from road safety to, you know, even the batteries we use every day.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So we've got some concerning stats on holiday road fatalities, a rise in lithium-ion battery fires, but also some positive stuff, like streamlining air travel and supporting overseas doctors.
Okay, that is quite the mix.
Yeah, it is. So let's just jump right in with this road safety issue. The New Zealand police released figures about fatalities over the holidays.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're not great.
I can imagine.
9 deaths from 8 crashes.
That's still pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, it's less than half of last year's total, but still, makes you think.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder of the risks, especially during holiday periods.
Right. And the police are saying it's the usual suspects, really distractions, speeding, and impairment.
Yeah, those seem to be recurring factors, unfortunately.
It's like every year, same story. Why do you think these issues are amplified during the holidays?
Well, it's probably a few things. Maybe people are rushing,
Right, trying to get to their destinations, see family.
Exactly. And maybe they're not as focused on the road. Plus, there's the holiday atmosphere itself.
True, a bit more relaxed, maybe some festive drinks involved.
Yeah, and that can lead to, well, impaired judgment.
It's a good reminder to be extra cautious, especially during this time of year.
Yeah.
But at least the police are trying to do something about it, right?
Yeah, it seems like they're taking it seriously.
Increased visibility, more breath tests. There was even a big crackdown in Coromandel, over 900 breath tests in one day.
Wow, that's impressive. Do you think that kind of enforcement really makes a difference?
It's hard to say, but it certainly sends a strong message.
Definitely. But I think a long-term solution goes beyond just enforcement.
Okay, what do you mean?
We need to look at the bigger picture, like public awareness campaigns, improvements to road infrastructure, maybe even look at vehicle safety features.
Okay, so thinking more holistically about the problem.
Exactly. Okay, so what's next on our list?
Well, this one might surprise some people. Lithium-ion battery fires.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently they've doubled in New Zealand in the past 4 years.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we're using these batteries more and more, right? Phones, laptops, e-scooters, electric cars. It's everywhere.
Right, so more batteries, more potential for problems.
Exactly. And it's not just small fires either. You remember that Tesla fire in Island Bay?
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
3 garages destroyed, a vintage car gone. It's scary how destructive these fires can be.
And I think that highlights the whole thermal runaway issue.
Yeah, what exactly is thermal runaway?
Well, it's like a chain reaction in the battery. It releases all this heat, and then boom, a really intense fire.
Yikes. So what can people do to prevent these fires? I mean, we all use these batteries, right?
Yeah, it's important to be careful. First of all, buy from reputable sources. No dodgy, cheap batteries.
Good point.
And check your batteries regularly. Look for any damage, like swelling or punctures.
Okay, so if it looks off, get a new one.
Exactly. And never throw them in the regular trash. Dispose of them properly.
Right, so recycle them at designated spots.
Yeah, and just be mindful of how you charge them.
Like, don't overcharge them.
Right. And try to avoid extreme temperatures, like leaving them in a hot car.
Okay, good tips.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something a bit more uplifting. James Cameron and his vision for Wellington.
James Cameron, the director.
The one and only. He's teamed up with some prominent Wellingtonians to try and revitalize the city.
Interesting. Is this just a celebrity endorsement, or is there more to it?
It seems like a genuine effort to tackle some of the city's challenges. Infrastructure, innovation, business growth, they're looking at it all. They're even planning public events to get the community involved.
Sounds ambitious.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But do you think it could actually work? I mean, can they really make a difference?
Well, Wellington certainly faces some challenges. Housing affordability, traffic congestion, you name it.
Yeah, and there's been growing concern about the city council's direction. Do you think Cameron's involvement can bring about real change?
It's hard to say for sure. His name recognition definitely brings attention to the project. But ultimately, it comes down to whether they can secure funding, get political support, and actually implement their ideas.
Right, it's one thing to have a vision, but turning that vision into reality is a whole other challenge.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Speaking of challenges, let's talk about the aviation industry. It's been a bit of a bumpy ride lately.
Oh, what's been happening?
Well, there's been a string of alarming incidents. Severe turbulence, technical errors, even bird strikes. Remember that Singapore Airlines flight that suddenly plunged?
Oh, yeah, the one that dropped like 50 meters.
54 meters to be exact. Several passengers were injured, including a New Zealander.
That's scary.
It is. And then there was that LATAM flight from Sydney to Auckland. The captain's seat malfunctioned mid-flight.
Whoa. What happened there?
Luckily, they managed to land safely, but it's a bit unnerving, right? It makes you wonder if these are just isolated incidents or if there are bigger issues at play.
I see what you mean. Do you think these incidents point to systemic problems within the industry?
It's hard to say for sure, but it does raise questions about safety protocols and oversight.
Right. And what about the role of climate change? I mean, we're seeing more extreme weather events these days.
That's definitely a factor. More turbulence, more unpredictable conditions. The industry needs to adapt to these changing realities.
Absolutely. Safety should always be the top priority.
Speaking of safety, let's shift gears to some initiatives by the New Zealand police. They're proposing early interventions for at-risk children,
Oh, how young are we talking?
as young as 9. The idea is to identify kids who might be headed down the wrong path and intervene before they end up in the youth justice system.
And how would they identify these children?
Well, they're talking about looking at things like family harm incidents or connections to young offenders.
I see. So kids who are already exposed to some kind of risk factor.
Exactly. And then they'd be referred to government agencies for support.
It sounds well-intentioned, but also a bit tricky, right?
It is. On the one hand, early intervention could be really beneficial. But on the other hand, there's the concern about labeling kids at such a young age.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. It's a delicate balance.
It is. We have to make sure we're providing support without stigmatizing or creating self-fulfilling prophecies.
Absolutely. Okay, so what else have the police been up to?
Well, they're also partnering with tech companies to crack down on text message scams.
Oh, good. Those are becoming a real nuisance.
They are. So now there's a new feature that lets you report scams directly from your phone.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, it'll help them block malicious links faster. And on a totally different note, it seems like the government's efforts to streamline air travel are actually working.
Oh, really? That's good news.
Yeah, they've been working on making security checkpoints faster, improving on-time performance.
I wonder what they've done.
They've implemented some new technology at security checkpoints, like advanced CT scanners. Now you can keep your laptops and liquids in your bags.
Oh, that makes a big difference. I hate having to unpack everything.
Me too. And they're also using queue monitoring technology to optimize passenger flow.
So it's all about making the experience smoother and more efficient.
Exactly. And it seems to be working, which is great for tourism and just overall connectivity.
Definitely. But on a less positive note, we need to talk about the job market. Public sector job cuts have hit a lot of people hard.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Many skilled professionals are now out of work, struggling to find new opportunities. And the EV market isn't looking too rosy either.
Oh, what's happening with EVs?
Well, the phasing out of government incentives has led to a sharp decline in registrations. It seems like the initial excitement has waned a bit.
I guess those incentives really did make a difference.
They did. It's a reminder that economics play a huge role in any kind of transition, even when it comes to something like electric vehicles.
Yeah, it's a complex issue.
It is. But let's pause here for now. We've covered a lot of ground already, from the dangers on the road to the challenges in the job market.
Yeah, it's been quite a deep dive so far. So where were we? Oh yeah, those public sector job cuts.
Right. It's a tough situation for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to cut spending, but it has real consequences for people's lives.
Absolutely. These are skilled professionals who are now facing unemployment. It's not easy finding a new job, especially when everyone else is looking too.
Right. And often they have to take a pay cut or even switch careers entirely. It's a big disruption.
It really is. And it makes you wonder about the government's role, you know.
In what way?
Well, in terms of providing support during these transitions, are there enough resources for retraining? What about financial assistance?
Those are good questions. It's all well and good to talk about efficiency, but we need to think about the human impact as well.
Exactly. And then there's the EV market, which is also facing challenges.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier. The phasing out of incentives seems to have slowed things down.
It has. It seems like that initial boost from the government was really important.
It probably gave people that extra push they needed to make the switch.
Right, because even though EVs have long-term benefits, they can be more expensive up front.
Yeah, so without those incentives, it's a tougher sell.
It is. It's almost like we need a more comprehensive approach, don't you think?
What do you mean?
Well, instead of just relying on financial incentives, maybe we need a combination of strategies.
Like what?
Well, for starters, more public awareness campaigns. Really highlight the benefits of EVs, not just the cost savings, but the environmental impact too.
That's a good idea. Educate people about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And then maybe invest more in charging infrastructure. Make it easier for people to charge their cars.
Right, because that's a big barrier for a lot of people.
It is. And maybe we could even support local EV manufacturing.
Oh, so create jobs and boost the economy at the same time.
Exactly. It's about thinking long term and creating a sustainable ecosystem.
I like that. Okay, so moving on, what about those overseas trained doctors?
Right. The medical council has tripled the exam spots for them.
That's fantastic
Yeah,
news.
it's a big step towards addressing the doctor shortage.
I mean, we need more doctors, and these folks are already qualified. It just makes
It
sense.
does. And it's a win-win situation, really. These doctors get to utilize their skills, and New Zealand gets much-needed healthcare professionals.
Exactly. But attracting them is just the first step, right?
Right. We need to make sure they feel supported and valued.
Like providing good clinical placements, mentorship, and a welcoming work environment.
Yeah, it's about making them feel like they belong and can build successful careers here.
Right. It's not just about filling vacancies. It's about investing in these doctors and their future.
Exactly. So let's turn to a topic that's a bit more, well, delicate: sexual health.
Okay, what about it?
We mentioned sexual well-being Aotearoa earlier and their emotional support bits initiative.
Oh, yeah, the plushies. That's such a clever idea.
It is, and it's really effective in breaking down the stigma around sexual health.
Because it makes it fun and approachable, right? You're not just talking about dry medical stuff.
Exactly. And, their research found that over 60% of New Zealanders feel uncomfortable discussing sexual health.
Really? That many.
Yeah, it's quite surprising.
It just shows how much stigma there is. And that silence can prevent people from getting the help they need.
Exactly. So how do we change that? How do we make these conversations easier?
I think it starts with education. Comprehensive sex education in schools is crucial.
Right. And we need to have these conversations at home, too.
Absolutely. Parents need to be more open with their kids, and we need to create spaces where people feel safe asking questions without judgment.
So it's about normalizing these conversations and making sexual health just another part of overall well-being.
Exactly. It shouldn't be something we're ashamed to talk about.
Okay, before we move on, there's one more story I want to touch on. Westpac, New Zealand, overcharging customers.
Oh no, how did that happen?
Well, they're admitting to misleading representations and some system errors. Apparently, it affected thousands of customers.
That's a lot of people. How much money are we talking about?
Millions of dollars. It's a big deal.
It sounds like a major oversight. What's being done about it?
The Financial Markets Authority is investigating, and there's a penalty hearing scheduled in the High Court.
Good. They need to be held accountable.
They do. And it's a good reminder for all of us to be vigilant about our own finances. Check your statements, make sure everything is accurate.
Absolutely. You can never be too careful.
So we've covered a lot of different topics in this part of our deep dive. It's interesting how these seemingly unrelated stories actually connect in some ways.
What do you mean?
Well, they all touch on themes of responsibility, accountability, and the need for transparency. Whether it's the government's role in supporting its citizens, the importance of ethical business practices, or the need for open communication about sensitive issues, it's all about creating a society that's fair and just.
I see what you mean. It's about building trust and ensuring that everyone's needs are met.
Exactly. And that's something we'll continue to explore as we move into the final part of our discussion. All right, welcome back. We've talked about so much already, everything from road safety to EVs to even sexual health.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But as we wrap up this deep dive into the NZ Lanka news, I can't help but notice how these stories, they all kind of connect to something bigger,
I see what you mean. They offer a glimpse into different parts of New Zealand, right?
Exactly. It's like that proposal to intervene with at-risk kids as young as 9.
Right, that's a tough one.
It is. On the surface, it's about preventing crime. But underneath, it's about so much more.
Social equity, poverty, the role of families.
Yeah, big questions about how we support each other, how we build a fairer society.
And it's not easy to find the right answers.
Nope. Like, how do we protect communities but also protect individual rights, especially for kids?
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. Early intervention could help some kids break cycles of crime.
Right. but we have to be careful not to label them too early.
Exactly. It's like we've been saying, open and honest conversations are key.
Right. It came up with sexual health. It comes up here. When we talk openly, we can find better solutions.
Think about those emotional support bits. That was brilliant.
It was. They made talking about sexual health fun, approachable.
And so many people struggle with that, feeling uncomfortable, not knowing where to turn.
It's true. We need more of that open dialogue on all sorts of topics.
Absolutely. It's how we build understanding, how we create change.
It all comes back to community, doesn't it?
Mm.
Recognizing we're all connected, we all have a role to play.
And even though there are challenges, there's also hope. We can learn from each other, support each other.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the NZ Lanka news, I'm feeling, a bit overwhelmed by all the information, but also kind of hopeful.
Me too. It's been a real eye-opener.
It has. And it's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, even in small ways.
By staying curious, staying engaged, and keep talking to each other.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.